Did you know at one time Dominaria was a completely deathless plane? Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, and welcome to an interesting lore video. This one was recorded slightly differently. I recorded a portion of it in a live stream so that we could discuss things afterwards and whatnot. It was a fun experience. So, that being said, let us head on over and hear the lore from this guy. Alright, well, for those of you who aren't aware, this lore video is a little bit different than the lore videos I normally do in that I recorded it during a live stream, although it most likely will turn out just like all the other lore videos. So, we are going to talk about the origin of death on Dominaria, because at one point, Dominaria was a deathless world, which is absolutely bizarre. What does that mean? Well, the world was, first of all, cloaked in light. There was no night. There was no darkness. It was always daytime. On top of that, creatures, nothing died. Animals, people, nothing. Now, they still had hunger, and they still got maimed and injured, okay? All this still happened. So animals would still be hungry, tearing chunks off of other animals, and then those animals would just go on suffering. Like wolves would be chasing deer and ripping chunks out of the deer to feed their bellies. And this hunger, I mean, obviously keeps coming back like hunger does, but the parts of the animals that are getting ripped off and everything, they're living in constant pain. The same thing is happening with the human beings of this world, okay? So they're getting older, infirm, or things like that, but there is no death. Nobody ever dies, okay? So whatever happens to you, if you get injured, you lose part of your body, anything like that, you're going through the rest of your life like that. And people ended up horrifically crippled, all these different people, but they're in constant suffering. And this is everywhere. On top of it, everybody had their normal breeding urges as well. So they kept breeding more and more generations. And this became more and more of a problem for human beings specifically. And it got really absurd in the human cities where they basically would take the old, the elderly, the sick and stack them. They were so many people that they would stack all the ill just in piles. Or in some cities, the young and healthy would take the old and hurting and nail them into boxes so that they didn't have to deal with them. And if you could hear the ones that would scrape and scream inside the boxes trying to get out, they would dig holes and bury those boxes and throw them into them. So it was a world, everybody was absolutely miserable, essentially. There was nowhere to go that wasn't absolutely crowded, just full of all this life and full, more importantly, of the suffering that was inescapable. Life was suffering, and it was unending suffering, and nobody really got to escape this. Until one day, an individual named Bethanel decided that she was going to seek a place where she was seeking nothingness. That's what she was looking for. She went out looking for nothingness, an escape from the constant pain of everyone and everything that's going on. And so she loaded up a bag full of bread and supplies and set off from her village, ignoring her families and just kind of slipping out without letting anyone know where she was going. Now, on this journey that she undertook, she was assailed by a number of different creatures. Crows and other birds that now feed off of carrion, they had no choice but to feed off of living flesh. So they were there picking parts of her face out as she's going along on her journey. And this stuff doesn't come back. She's just, you heal up to a degree, but when you get maimed, it's permanent. And she lost multiple parts of her body on this journey of nothingness. Wolves chewed off one of her hands. She lost one of her feet as well. So she traveled to all these different locations until finally, she came to the peak of this remote mountain where there was no one. Nobody at all. And she sat there. And her whole life, she had an intense longing for nothingness. There was just something about Bethanel specifically where she longed for nothingness. And this was a very special attribute about her. And up on the mountaintop, nothingness came to her. The void came to Bethanel and fathered 3 children. No, my apologies, 4 children. And the 4th is the most important. Necros, the only child of the void in Bethanel that matters. So these children were all given gifts. The eldest had the gift of stillness, and he could use this to still the world around his mother, so that if things were getting too crazy, he could bring peace to her. Okay, so there was stillness. And the second son was gifted with silence, so he could quiet the area around his mother. The third son was gifted with the gift of forgetfulness. And while he touched his mother, she forgot all of her pain and the sorrows of the world. But then you have Necros, the fourth son, who had no real gift. Or so it seemed. The gift of the void is what Necros had. A deep hunger and longing that he could not understand or fill. There was nothing he could do about it. And so he watched his brothers with envy for a while. And after a while, he decided that he was going to do something. So he went to his eldest brother, and he professed how much he loved his eldest brother. And he lamented about how he had no power of his own. And he asked his brother, please, teach me how to do what you do so that I can help as well. And so his brother taught him the secrets of stillness. And with these secrets of stillness, Necros then petrified his brother. He completely turned his back on his brother, left them there petrified. And then, well, I'm sure you know what happens next. Necros goes to the second eldest brother. He professes his love to his brother, laments about how he has no power, asks his second brother, please, teach me the secrets of silence. So his brother teaches him the secrets of silence. And Necros steals his brother's voice and seals him away in a cave while he's screaming soundlessly to be let free. So, again, Necros goes to his third brother, professes his love, and asks to be taught the secrets of forgetfulness. All right? So he's taught the secrets of forgetfulness, and this one's easiest for him because he just reaches out, boom, and he makes his brother forget he even had the power that he took. So at this point, Necros now is inhabited. He's taken these powers, all right, and he's sitting there and he sees his mother and he sees the suffering. And the thing about Necros is he's driven by this void, but he's not an absolute villain, right? He's not like he did these things to his brothers. No, he's not a good guy. But he's not purely a villain either. It kind of think of like Thanos from Infinity Wars, where it's just like, okay, you know what? Like, he's not a good guy, but you can see where they're coming from. You can see what drives him. And the pain of Necros' mother drove him to try and change the world, okay? So Necros went out there, and with his powers, they were potent, but the world was chaos. Remember this. The world was always alight, always awake. All the animals and things like that. Like when he went out into the world to try and learn more about the world, swarms of animals would come after him and they would overwhelm his powers, right? But here and there, he would use these powers, leaving people petrified and other things. And it came to the point where he came to the notice of the angels of the world. And because the world was completely bathed in light, and angels are creatures of light, there was nowhere to hide from these angels. So there was this one angel that was really, really dissatisfied with what Necros was out there doing in the world. They found him to be an aberration with his abilities. And so this really powerful archangel sent out to take care of him and started hunting him down. Now, his power of the other two powers, like the stillness, the silence, did not work on the angel. However, forgetfulness was just powerful enough that every time the angel got to him, he was able to stray her off course, but she could keep finding him and keep finding him. And he realized finally that it was the light, the unending light of the world was what was making it so the angel could find him. So with the power of the void, the nothingness, he pulled light into himself and created forever, for the first time, night. Now, there was no such thing as sleep, so people still were living like in a day-night cycle, but with no sleep. Now there was just, boom, like there was a period of darkness each day going on. So he returned home to his mother, and his mother was like, are you responsible for this darkness and this stillness sort of thing? And Necros was like, yes, I am. And his mother was pleased with him, but he could see that her suffering continued still. So he went on, and he basically started, he would wander by people. Like, you got to understand, he was almost half Jesus as well. With his stillness and these other powers, what he was trying to do underneath was he was trying to take away all the pain and suffering of people. And he just didn't know, so he was like silence, forgetfulness, whatever. And but that never really took away the pain, right? The people still existed. They were still in pain. If you made them silent, they're still there. There's nothing you could do about that. Even the petrification, the stillness, was just rooting someone in place. It's not like turning someone to stone like Vraska, where it's an actual death and an escape. It's just being rooted, immobile as a statue. So you can see why this sort of stuff affronted the angels. You can see why they were upset and would be sending this angel endlessly out to try and take him down. So even with the darkness, the angel was still able to track him down. And at one point, she ends up pinning him to a tree. Okay? She gets the jump on him, and she drives a spear through him to a tree. Now think about it. This is a world with no death, guys. No escape. So he is now pinned to this tree with such force that he knows he's going to spend eternity stuck to this tree, and that there's no escape from this. And that's when it finally dawns on him that he has to use his void powers to pull in life itself. Life itself. And that's when he reaches out and he lightly touches the angel. And at his touch, the angel instantly collapses. Just poof, he pulled the life force out of the angel. That was the first instance of death on Dominaria. That angel then arose with like crazy dark eyes as a servant of Necros. And it said, I know what I must do, my master. And the angel went and started slaughtering everything. The angel killed everything that it came across. It butchered 99% of life on the plane. And just the shadow of the angel passing by caused mortality to inhabit all the rest of the creatures, humans, everything in Dominaria. So anything that wasn't slain by the angel's night of retribution and doom was forever rendered mortal. And thus, Necros was very, very pleased with that. But because Necros wants to end suffering altogether, that wasn't the end. The crazy part is, there's an assassin's guild that still exists in Dominaria, and they have a very particular way of doing things, where they induct 4 assassins. Well, they bring 4 initiates in, and they all battle to the death. Only one assassin is allowed to take up the mantle. And this assassin's guild, essentially, is headed by that angel. That angel, the undead angel, is still alive, leading this assassin's guild, bringing them up. And the ultimate goal of this assassin's guild is actually to end all life on Dominaria. And they know one day their order will be the one called on to do it. So to me, that is an absolutely epic origin story of the causes of death on Dominaria. I had no idea. These books are absolutely fantastic. There's a lot of lore hidden deep in the ancient historical recesses of Magic the Gathering. I know some of you guys leave comments on the video saying, hey, where can I read about this? I don't think you can unless you can get the book. I don't know if anybody else on the internet is logging this stuff anywhere, but I'm going to